Meeting of the San Mateo County Board of Education will come to order. As is our practice, this meeting will be recorded. The board provides remote access for members of the public and welcomes community members joining in person and remotely. The board is following the requirements of Assembly Bill AB 2449, which enables remote participation by board members only under specific circumstances. We use simultaneous interpretation in Spanish for those attending virtually through the end of the public comment. Translation will continue further into the meeting if people are utilizing the channel. Thank you to our interpreter, Eva Camacho, for joining us remotely. For meeting attendees wishing to attend the Spanish translation channel on Zoom, click on the interpretation button on the menu bar. We ask that all speakers be mindful of the Spanish interpretation and speak slowly and clearly. I ask board members to speak directly into the microphone and remind all speakers who are wearing masks to remove their masks when speaking in order to be clearly heard by all attendees. Item 1B is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
There is a motion to approve the agenda made by Ms. Bonini and a second by Mr. Cannon. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion passes with unanimous vote, and the agenda for tonight's meeting has been approved. Guidelines for public comment. Guidelines for public comment are available on the San Mateo County Office of Education website and in board docs, as well as on the table outside the boardroom in both English and Spanish. If there are speakers who require Spanish interpretation, our interpreter, Ms. Camacho, will interpret following each speaker's comments. At this time, members of the public may provide comment for topics not included on the approved agenda. The County Board of Education does not act upon any matter that has not been agendized except under limited circumstances as permitted by law. It is the policy of the County Board to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and/or action where appropriate. Superintendent McGee, do we have any comments submitted prior to the meeting?
We did have one comment that was forwarded to the board, but we also have that speaker online with a hand raised. So perhaps he can speak when we get to the next section.
Okay, all right, thank you. Speakers are invited to make live comment and have 3 minutes to speak. The board's executive assistant, Jennifer Perna, will keep the time and advise when the speaker has 30 seconds left. Please keep within the time limits. To make a comment over Zoom, members of the public may use the raise hand feature. Instructions for using this feature are provided as an attachment in the board packet. Once the hand is raised, please wait to be acknowledged by Superintendent McGee. Superintendent McGee, are there any members of the public attending remotely who wish to make a comment at this time?
We have one speaker, Wesley Liu.
Thank you, Superintendent McGee. Yes, members of the board, as Superintendent McGee noted, I did submit a written public comment about my visit to Camp Kemp and Hillcrest yesterday. And I just wanted to once again underscore and highlight the gratitude I have for Michael Doherty for sort of giving us a tour and assisting us during that process, along with other staff and faculty. And I think their work is really impressive because the population of youth is not exactly, shall I say, they did not approach their learning in the most conducive way from a teacher's perspective. But I do think it is important for the county to work to improve the conditions there and to improve the learning outcomes of these students. So once again, I wanted to thank the board, wanted to thank Superintendent McGee and the staff at the Corydon Community Schools, but I also wanted to once again emphasize the importance of addressing the root causes of why they are there in the first place. That is chronic absenteeism and truancy, among other things, but also how they leave our Corydon Community Schools, especially at Camp Kemp. I feel that a lot of the population there are hesitant about returning back to their home school. And I would like to understand the transition process a lot better, along with finding common sense solutions to make the learning outcomes tailored to each student and to really make a difference here. So I wanted to thank the board for all their work, and I intend to work with you. And I think that the Corydon Community Schools are fabulous, but it behooves us to once again look for areas of improvement. So thank you so much for the opportunity to inspect the Corydon Community Schools. I look forward to working with each of you in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Members of the public may also provide live comment in person. Superintendent McGee, are there any cards submitted this evening?
We do not have any cards.
Thank you. Public comment addressing specific agenda items will be heard immediately before the board takes them up. If members of the public wish to speak to a specific agenda item, please use the raised hand feature when the item is announced, or if in person, submit a card in advance of the item. Item 3A is the September 23 Employee of the Month, Sarah Hopkins, Multimedia Designer, Office of the Superintendent. Will Sarah please join me in the middle of the room? As everyone knows, this is my favorite part. So each month, the board and superintendent recognize an employee for providing outstanding service. For the month of September, we recognize Sarah Hopkins, multimedia designer in the superintendent's office. Sarah joined the County Office of Education in July 2022 and quickly became an invaluable member of the communications team and organization. Sarah supports staff across the county office with their multimedia needs, creating engaging events and program collateral, web pages, templates, videos, banners, graphics, and other multimedia assets. You're really busy. She also provides staff with guidance and training on design, accessibility, and branding. Sarah has worked on several high-profile county office projects, including designing the annual report to the community, presentations for state conferences, Coalition for Safe Schools, and communities, products, and other resources. All of Sarah's projects helps the county office to shine. Sarah documented the creation of the student mural at 101 Twin Dolphin Drive from concept to completion through photographs, videos, and interviews. Her engaging video about the mural amplifies the voices of students involved in the project. This summer, Sarah transformed the county's office new strategic plan into a striking and engaging set of documents, slides, and other tools that have added to the excitement of the new plan and helped it come to life. They're beautiful. They really are. Sarah is a caring and conscientious colleague and employee. She is always willing to pitch in and help others and has a kind word for everyone. We are proud of our county office staff and are pleased to recognize Sarah Hopkins for her outstanding work. Congratulations to Sarah for being named Employee of the Month, September 2023. Congratulations. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's exciting to be at a board meeting. This is my first one, so yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I joined about a year ago and I didn't have much experience in the educational field or on a communications team. So I've definitely learned so much this past year, and I want to say a big thank you to my communications team as well as the larger superintendent's office. You all have been really welcoming and have taught me so much. And yeah, I think you all put students, families, and communities at the center of all our work. And that's really great to see every day, whether it's just my team checking over the text on a flyer to a larger project such as the strategic plan, which we recently completed. It's been really a great experience to work with you all. So just want to say thank you. And then also to Nancy, thank you so much. It's been nice working closer with you the past few months on some big projects that have been kind of a highlight for my time here, like the mural project, the strategic plan, report to the community, and all the coalition work. It's been really inspirational to hear particularly the coalition story and help share that out. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you again, Sarah. We're so pleased. And we have a little something for you to take home with you. This is a little surprise. And then we also have one of our apples. So thank you again and congratulations.
Got a noisy fan club back there.
That's always so much fun. Item 4A is the public hearing on the recommendation reappointment to the Personnel Commission of Karen Swartz. The public hearing is now open. Would anyone like to speak on this issue? The hearing is now closed. There is no action to take on this item. Item 4B, the board will discuss and act on the recommended reappointment of Karen Swartz for a 3-year term to the Personnel Commission. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is
Second.
there,
Oh, sorry. Second.
there is a motion to reappoint Karen Schwartz for a 3-year term to the Personnel Commission made by Ms. Alvaro and a second by Mr. Torres. Is there any further discussion? I have just one thing to say, and I'm so pleased that Karen is willing to serve again. She's done an outstanding job, and it's just been a real joy to see her jump in with both feet and really make the commission an even better commission than they were. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion passes with unanimous vote, and the board has voted to reappoint Karen Swartz for a 3-year term to the Personnel Commission. Item 5A, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the August 23rd, 2023 regular board meeting as presented? Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
There is a motion to approve the minutes of the August 23rd, 2023 board meeting made by Mr. Camacho and a second by Ms. Alvaro. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion passes with unanimous vote, and the minutes of the August 23rd, 2023 regular board meeting have been approved. Item 6 is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is not debatable and requires a unanimous vote for passage. An item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular order of business for separate discussion and action if any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? There is a motion to approve the consent agenda made by Mr. Torres and a second by Ms. Alvaro. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. The motion passes with unanimous vote and the consent agenda has been approved. Item 7A, Sarah Notch, Executive Director, Center for Access and Engagement, will provide a report on the opening of San Mateo County Office of Education student programs. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public? Executive Director Notch?
Good evening, President Gerard, members of the board, Superintendent McGee. I'm very excited to be here to share with you what I feel is one of the most exciting starts to the school year that we've had since I've been here. And I think that's due in large part to the work that we did last year together as a school programs team on our strategic planning. It's really anchored everything, and I'm excited to share out what that has looked like in practice. Before we get into all of the exciting reports on how we are turning the strategic plan from inspiration into action, I wanted to share out some information about our demographics and the student enrollment counts, and then accordingly the certificated and classified FTE. I won't read the slide to you, but I do want to point out one thing is that at the time of board publishing, we were working on some referrals for Gateway, so those numbers aren't entirely accurate, but they're very close, and we're continuing to accept referrals. So the numbers are fluctuating slightly. You may remember this slide. It was part of everything that we did in all of our strategic planning meetings and really paved the road for how we were going to develop and then implement with the supports in place for our school staff and students to be successful. So we're excited that right now we're in the phase of, it's almost 3, 4, and 5 combined. We're doing our, we are doing, there we go, professional development along with implementation science and professional learning communities together. So we had a lot of PD that was around the goals and actions in our strategic plan. That started our professional development days. And throughout the year, our staff is going to engage in implementation science through the use of PDSA cycles, which stands for plan, do, study, and act, and then examine the work that they've done with reflecting on all of that data to inform their practice in their professional learning communities. So we're well down the path and we're excited about where we're headed and looking forward to having more to report back to you. We have a few more school days under our belts. As I mentioned, we're focusing on the goals and actions in our strategic plan, and it's really anchored with a whole child approach, ensuring that everything that we're doing is covering all 3 domains with academic, behavioral, and social emotional. And here's just a quick reminder of the one of the domains. This is our behavioral goals, goals on the top and then actions on the bottom. And one thing that I really wanted to point out and that we've talked about a lot with our staff is you'll hear the word behavior, and sometimes it conjures up images of behavior that results in a office referral or behavior that isn't pro-social or isn't, appropriate in the environment. And when we're talking about behavior, we're talking about the way that people show up in spaces that either makes them more ready and accessible for learning or impedes that. And so when we're doing a deep dive into behavior, It's not from a punitive perspective, and I'll talk in the future slides about our emphasis on positive behavior intervention and supports, but it's really about what are we doing to ensure that the learning environments are creating a situation and a set of conditions that allow students to show up in the very best way. And how are we monitoring when they're not, so that we can overcome some of those barriers with proactive environmental, social, emotional, and behavioral and academic supports. Some of these photos share stories about what we spent the first couple of days with the professional development time with our educators, what we spent time doing. There was a very fun activity. I heard, I wasn't there for it, but I heard it was incredibly well received and sometimes hilarious with the ACC team, the Ann Campbell Center team, building their culture by playing a Ransom Notes magnet game where they got to tell stories. So they had a lot of fun playing together, but they also dove into some really deep work. One of their goals in the strategic plan was around demystifying the psychoeducational reports for our related service providers. Those are the assessments that are done every 3 years for students with disabilities, and really kind of dissecting where they can go in those reports that will help them inform their practice and support not only the directly related fields in their area of expertise, but multidisciplinary teams as well to help support them with the work that they're doing. So they did that on the Psychoeducational Assessment Meets SACE, that's our IEP system platform, PD. And then they've also been talking a lot about increasing the efficiency by regionalizing where they're assigning their providers to reduce drive time, to create continuity in caseload. So there was a lot of really great work done there. Our court and community team, we have implemented a strategic planning alignment period that is a student-free period for our educators that allows them to do either committee work or choose from a menu of different options that relate to the implementation of our strategic plan. We know it's a heavy lift, and we know that there's a lot of really exciting work to be done, and we know that it won't be effective if we don't have time to do this work. So that was an exciting addition. And then our K-22 also had some fun and frivolity down there. You can see some of the photos in their team building communication activities, but they also engaged in some really deep work around our new Teach Town curriculum, which is aligned with the alternate pathways to a diploma work. That's now a very exciting development in California, where students who traditionally were only eligible for a certificate of completion can now earn a diploma. And I want to just highlight, I said alternate pathway, not alternate diploma. And that means a lot to our team. So they've been doing some really great work with aligning their instructional practices to help support students in accumulating credits and working towards their diplomas. We also had another shift in court and community, and this is focusing on our positive behavior intervention and supports, our PBIS work, where our referral form was switched to a student supports form that's more restorative and helps plug the students into different interventions that might help them be more successful and really kind of get to that root cause that the earlier public comment speaker was alluding to in his comments of we want to react in a way that helps build skills and build independence rather than just being punitive. So that's a commitment and a focus for us. And then we've also had amazing support from our Safe and Supportive Schools team with our school climate coordinators, who you'll meet in a couple of minutes. They've been amazing and wonderful in developing a lot of professional development or delivering a lot of professional development for our schools teams. So that happened the first couple of days and is ongoing. So lots of really great collaborative work, all aligned with our strategic plan. And then these are a couple other highlights. We had a red carpet ceremony for our VIP students entering at Gateway. We have a new parent welcome and registration room that's very lovely. And if I'm ever looking for a place to sit down with my laptop at Ann Campbell Center, if all of the rooms are busy, that's the first place I'll go. It's warm and welcoming, and we're excited to have that for our families. Our K-22 students are still working on all of their independent living and pre-vocational skills. And so they're utilizing the outdoor learning environment gardens, all of the expanded rooms that we created last year with the micro businesses and the independent learning environment. So that's well on its way. And we are hoping to expand beyond just the pop-up markets at 101 and maybe get into some community events. So farmers markets or arts and crafts fairs, something to take it to the next level this year. So that's really exciting too. And then these are just a couple of upcoming engagement events. We are expanding our baby group at Ann Campbell Center. We have a back to school barbecue planned for ACC and K-22. And then K-22 and Gateway both have virtual back to school nights coming up. So it feels like it's only been a couple of days, but there's a lot that's been accomplished since the opening of school. And I couldn't be more proud of this team and all of the educators and administrators that are working on behalf of our students. It's been a fantastic start to our year. And that is all I have for you tonight. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Ms. Alvaro?
Thank you for this presentation.
I know.
And thank you for standing in.
Oh, of course. Happy to.
I did have a question on the, it's like this first actual slide, the program numbers. There are 9 students at Hillcrest.
I believe that is the correct number as of,
9 students at Hillcrest?
I believe so.
I mean, I'm not doubting you. I'm
Yes.
just doubting the situation. Because there was a time when we had, 60 or more students at
Absolutely.
Hillcrest. And it's great that there's not more kids there, but 9 just, I find shocking. So is it like because we're ramping into the school year or I don't want to put you on the spot because I know that that's not where you are all the time, but.
I'll
is it-
share what I think is
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
a contributing
please.
factor is that during COVID, the incarceration rates went down a
Yeah.
lot. And then in looking kind of at how we're supporting our youth and some of the changes that have happened in the ways that we support our youth in the facilities, I think that we're seeing fewer youth being placed at the Youth Services Center. And I think COVID was a great kind of interrupter of those high rates. I don't know what may happen in the future. I'm happy to see that they are so low, but I think that that's probably part of the reason why.
Yeah, I mean, it's great if we're diverting the
Mhm.
kids through other programs. I looked at that number and 3 at Camp and 9 at Hillcrest. I just find it astonishing because there used to be like 20 in a class.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it
all right.
allows for much more personalized learning right now too. The students, the ratios and having more individualized attention opportunities when you're not in a class of 20. So we're enjoying it on many levels.
And are you still seeing that the average, let me just say, attendance in school at Hillcrest is about 2 weeks, or are you seeing something change there too?
That I'm not sure of. I would have to look into that.
Okay, it's no big deal. I'm more curious because I know for a long time that was an issue.
Mhm.
Basically students for 2 weeks. Some of them may come back for a visit, but how do you test them, bring them on board
Right.
and educate them in 2 weeks?
And the turnover being,
Yeah.
yes.
So, okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Ms. Benini?
Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to just ask a follow-on question first to trustee Alvaro's question. So as of a week ago at the JJDPC meeting, there were like 20. And I'm just curious at Hillcrest, and I'm curious if our number only accounts for those in K through 12 and not the secure track other students who are there. So I see nodding. So there are actually more students, young people, I think, in the facility, but maybe not within our school that we are referring to in our numbers. Is that?
I believe so, yes. I think those are the numbers for our up to 12th grade
Okay.
students who have not graduated.
Right. So there are other students there. And then of course, at Camp. So I just wanted to ask that question. That sounds like a yes. And then I just wanted to make a comment about the micro businesses and the other entrepreneurial sort of and independent living work that's that the K through 12 students do, or the up to 22. I don't know how to say that. And just make a note that 2 opportunities. One is that I'm still chairing the Transition to Independence Fair for the Commission on Disabilities. And we work directly with all the transition coordinators for the high schools. And we have a team of about 40 or 50 people who are helping plan it. So it's anticipated that that is going to be, like a resource fair, right? With a lot of different things. And the last year when we did it in January or in February, we had the micro businesses from all the high school districts there, and we didn't have ours. So I wanted to extend that invitation. We do have, I believe, someone from the SELPA attending our meetings, but I don't know if we have anyone else, but I can definitely share that information when we know
thank
the
you.
date. Don't have a date yet. And then in addition to that, we are planning hopefully we're having a meeting next week, but hopefully in October, which is almost here, we're having a smaller event, which is really just focused on career and other opportunities. So it'll be like apprenticeships and entrepreneurism and other things. So we're trying to give some community recognition for those who are really engaging with our students in the business community, that kind of thing. So again, we will be inviting the micro businesses. We don't have a location yet, but I can share it. But anyway, those are two other opportunities.
Oh,
that
thank
might be-
you. That's
be
very exciting.
possible.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure.
Are there any other questions or comments? Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate the report, and you're a real trooper, I'll say. Wow.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
I hope you're feeling better and on both legs real soon.
it. Thank you.
Oops. Okay, I'm trying to find myself here. Next is item 7B, which is the introduction of Michael Doherty, Director, School Programs. Director Doherty.
Thank you for having me go first. There's a little bit of a competition back here. So good evening, Board President Gerard, members of the board, and Superintendent McGee. My name is Michael Doherty. I'm extremely happy to be here with you tonight as the new Director of School Programs. I have over 20 years of experience in education as a math teacher, assistant principal, and principal. And I can actually remember, I don't know if you remember, but in 2016, we were somewhere at Zap the Gap, I believe, and you were the MC, and I was one of the principals at Ralston Middle School, and I was so nervous when he handed me the mic. So I'm a little nervous now, but not as much. So good memories. As the Director of School Programs, I get the privilege of working closely with a dynamic group of administrators and staff who are working extremely hard, excuse me, to make school a great experience for all. I personally am learning something new every single day, as my experience is in traditional school, and now I'm coming to a new world, which is amazing. And I'm surrounded by very dedicated educators. So that's a highlight for me. And I'm not very good at a script. I feel lucky to have joined such a passionate group of professionals who are all sharing a common goal, and that's being a champion for all of our students. We are champions of the students' efforts, and we are their support system in their experiments. I know together we can watch our students reach their full potential. I'm excited to say I have to give shouts out to the people I work with, right? Because I'm a huge team player. So forgive me, this is not all about me. I'm excited to say that ACC is opening the state school preschool, as you've heard, and we now have 2 students slated to start on Monday. So that's 2 of many to come. So keep getting the word out there. Principal Logan and team have been working hard to onboard an amazing teacher, as well as market the program to increase their enrollment. Corton Community Schools have kicked off the year with the red carpet event, which was pretty amazing. The students were very caught off guard. We did it at Hillcrest, we did it at Kemp as well. And the smiles on their faces was just something that I could not stop talking about for at least a week with all my friends. And my friends are not in education, so they're like, please be quiet. K-22 is an amazing place with loving and dedicated staff. It's my happy place at this point. It's a great place to be. Principal Paulino is working hard to continue to establish and implement systems that support staff in providing the best educational opportunities for students. And as you know, we've heard it, please keep an eye out for the pop-up markets, right? I gotta make sure we're getting that plug in. Students are working hard. Personally, I have a young family consisting of my wife, Allison, 2 young boys, Lorenzo, who is turning 6 in November, and Sabino, who just turned 4, who he's acting like a 14-year-old already. So fun times lie ahead for me. We also have this little dog named Dasher. We didn't know that it was going to be an amazing name, but anytime you leave that door open and you look left, he dashes out. So our entire neighborhood knows him. And then the last member of our family is a little kitten named Ninja Bolt. I did not name the cat, my kids did. Again, funny name, it really sticks. She's a ninja, and we are learning ninja moves at the house. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you all as I create a career here with you. I'm excited to be here, and I look forward to the future and what it has to bring. Thank you very much.
Thank you and welcome. Item 7C is the introduction of Chad Slife, a coordinator, Center for Access and Engagement.
Good evening, Board President Gerard, members of the board, Superintendent McGee. Thank you for letting me go second after Michael Doherty. I win. I really appreciate that. I also appreciate you having our board meeting at 7 p.m. so I could lead a restorative practices training and at La Entrada in Menlo Park, managed to squeeze in a little marathon running, clean up for you, and make it on time. So thank you for that. So similar to Michael, I have going into year 21 as a paid educator, I like to say, recovering principal at the moment. I was in my undergrad career, I never thought I'd be a teacher. I ended up applying to Teach for America and was in the founding San Francisco Core in TFA. And then I thought I'd never want to be a site administrator. And then I ended up being assistant principal at a charter middle school, founding AP in the city, Gateway Middle School. Said I'd never want to be a principal. And then spent 7 years as an elementary principal in San Francisco and most recently in San Mateo. And now I'm here and I am so gracious to this amazing team. So amazing that I'm moving the cart around. And just to be able to spread, the gospel of students first throughout the county. From being able to be down this afternoon in Menlo Park and Las Lomitas. Next week, I'll be up at Jefferson. Tomorrow, I'm at K-22. And being able to work with our Corton community, K-22 and Campbell, and everywhere in between is just the best. To serve our students, primarily our students, but also our staff who so desperately need more support each and every day. So I thank you for the opportunity. I'm so excited for all the projects coming down the pike. I'm already starting to task manage myself a little better. The office life was new to me. I was the principal that never was in my office. And so I have an office again, but I'm having to learn how to task manage without running out to recess supervision and less SPF every day. So I appreciate again the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and thank you so much.
Item 7D is the introduction of Stacy Russell, Coordinator, School Climate. Coordinator Russell.
Good evening, Board President Gerard, members of the board, and Superintendent McGee. My name is Stacy Russell, and I am truly thrilled to be here this evening. I was born and raised in San Mateo County, and much of my life work has been as a fierce advocate for children. This is what led me to my new home in safe and supportive schools as a coordinator for School Climate. My journey into education began while I was in high-tech sales and spent time volunteering as an after-school tutor and as a mentor. I found myself changing gears after 9/11 and moved into the classroom to teach math. I have worn many hats over the years, from teacher, department chair, grade level advisor, leadership teacher, EL coordinator, math specialist and coach, assistant principal and principal. All along the way, advocating and teaching students to advocate for themselves. What brings me joy with my new position is the opportunity to share my knowledge and experience to assist our schools in the county, but I also get to work with a truly gifted and compassionate team. I am excited about our work in PBIS, restorative practices, and SEL. I can honestly say that I wake up every morning excited about the work I get to be part of. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7E is the introduction of Gregory Fry, Coordinator, School Climate Coordinator Fry.
Good evening, Board President Gerard, members of the board, and Superintendent McGee. I am humbled and honored to introduce myself this evening. My name is Greg Fry, and I'm a new coordinator of school climate here at San Mateo County Office of Education. My path here could be described as circuitous and possibly meandering. Similarly, I often share when I'm presenting that my teachers would never believe that I would one day have a job talking about positive behavior in school climates. And I spent my first half of my adult life running camps and after school programs for young people who have been traditionally described as being at risk, both here in Northern California and in Colorado. It was in this work where I began to realize that school was often at best challenging and sometimes at worst even damaging for many of the students who I was working with. So I decided to go into teaching, and I was hired as a high school English teacher at South Philadelphia High School through an internship credential program. After a month of intensive training and the day before I was to start in the classroom, the director called me in and let me know that instead of sending me to teach high school English, they're sending me instead to middle school, where I would teach special education for students who had been identified as having emotional disturbance. It was there in that classroom that I truly discovered a love and a sense of purpose that I bring with me to this day. My why, my central purpose, my passion, my reason for getting out of bed in the morning and continuing to work in education is to do everything I can to ensure that every student in our sites and districts has a champion, at least one caring adult who knows them and greets them by name, who knows their story, who notices them when they're at school and when they're absent, who has their best interests in mind. For the past 17 years, I have worked as a middle school special education teacher, then as a site administrator, and then as a district coordinator. In all these positions, I had the opportunity to collaboratively design, develop, and oversee building systems and structures of equitable supports for all students, including positive behavior interventions and supports, programs for students in foster care and students experiencing homelessness, supports for our LGBTQ+ students, and then coordinating and working with our mental health supports and social emotional learning. For the past 2 years before I arrived here, I worked at the Monterey County Office of Education through a grant-funded coordinator position to deliberately interconnect PBIS, social emotional learning, and mental health supports in multi-tiered school climate structures. My role here at SMCE will be to work with sites and districts to build safe and welcoming school climates that supports all students, while also supporting the staff that brings these structures to life. I bring experience in launching both small scale in a classroom and a site level and large scale at a district and region level school climate systems. I bring a passion for equity and addressing systemic issues to truly and intentionally address achievement gaps, especially for those students who have been historically marginalized. I want to express my gratitude to my safe and supportive school team, to Deputy Superintendent Marco Chavez, to Associate Superintendent Chris Schaus, and Superintendent Nancy McGee for the honor and opportunity to continue to build upon the strong foundation of school climate here in the San Mateo County districts and schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 7F is the introduction of Marcella Miranda, Director, School Community Partnerships. Director Miranda?
Good evening, Board President, members of the board, and Superintendent McGee. I'm Marcella Miranda, Director of School Community Partnerships under the umbrella of Safe and Supportive Schools Division. It's an absolute honor to be here, and I'm excited to support our educational community. My role focuses on fostering and coordinating strong and intentional partnerships between schools and external partners to support community schools. Needless to say, this job description was written for me. It's my bread and butter. I bring a wealth of experience to this position, including being a classroom teacher, 17 years as a site leader, pre-K to 12th grade settings, district experience coordinating partnerships, and more recently as HR director. I hold multiple degrees, credentials, and certifications, including a BA from UC Santa Cruz, teaching credential from UCLA, and a Master's of Arts in Education Administration from San Jose State University. As a daughter of immigrant parents and one-time migrant workers, improving outcomes for California students holds deep personal significance for me. And I look forward to working with our San Mateo schools, community agencies, and local government to align communities' resources that will improve outcomes for the whole child and family development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome all of you, and it's so exciting to have such wonderful people joining the team at the San Mateo County Office of Education. We're absolutely thrilled, and thank you for coming tonight and introducing yourselves. It's always a pleasure for the board to get to know those people that are out there doing all the hard work. Thank you. Item 7G, the public hearing concerning sufficiency for textbooks and/or instructional materials is now open. Would anyone like to speak on this issue? The hearing is now closed. There is no action to take on this item. Item 7H, Marco Chavez, Deputy Superintendent, Educational Services Division, will provide an update on resolution number 23-28, sufficiency of textbooks and/or instructional materials. Deputy Superintendent Chavez.
Good evening, Board President Gerard, members of the board, and Superintendent McGee. It's not so much of an update, but just a brief statement that the resolution that you have is an assurance that each pupil in our special education and coordinated community schools programs have access to sufficient textbooks and/or instructional materials in the subject areas listed in the resolution, and that the books and instructional materials are consistent with state standards and content. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have and respectfully ask that you adopt the resolution.
Are there any questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 23-28, sufficiency of textbooks and/or instructional materials?
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion to approve resolution 23-28 made by Mr. Cannon and a second by Ms. Alvaro. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion passes with unanimous vote, and resolution 23-28 has been approved. Item 8A is superintendent's comment. Superintendent McGee, do you have any comments this evening?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I want to just start by thanking Board Member Bonini for bringing all this great materials for Suicide Prevention Month. We'll definitely be getting it out to our staff and our folks, and we'll be sure to be promoting the messages through the month of September. So thank you. The school program staff, as you have seen, has done just an amazing job to kick off a really positive school year. I want the board to know that the principals are working right now to schedule, to calendar school visits for the board members through the year. And we're planning on starting with the Early Start program, where the baby group has expanded threefold. And so it's a really cool program that I don't think we've ever had a chance to really share with you. So we'll start with that hopefully in later September. But the principals are working on some projected dates and times for various school visits through the year. One of the things that we've been working hard to lift off through the Coalition for Safe Schools and Communities is a year-long strategic planning process. I'm calling it strategic planning for youth mental health for school age children, TK through transition age youth, basically around the age of 22. We have a very capable facilitator consultant group that is helping organize us, who are rooted in the health field. And we are just now getting really going with the process. The timeline to complete will be next May, early June, that we hope to be finished with all the recommendations and the reports that we can then take action on. We're taking a very broad, intentional equity lens to the process. So we're being very thoughtful about how to include as many voices as possible in the learning process. There is a steering committee of leaders who will be meeting monthly to keep an eye on how we're doing. And then there are also 4 work groups that will kick off. 2 work groups will kick off this month and 2 work groups will kick off in January. The work groups are organized by age group. So there's a work group for the elementary age youth, for the middle school youth, for high school, and for transition age. I'm happy to say that Board Member Bonini will be representing the Behavioral Health Commission on the work groups, but I think she looks through the eyes of both her board role and her Behavioral Health Commission. So we're thrilled to have her involved in that. Leading the work groups will be a leader from behavioral health and recovery services at the county, paired with a leader from the County Office of Education. So Mary McGrath will lead a group. Marcella Miranda, who you just met, will be leading a group. Ruby Makara-Egg also leading a group, and Cindy Dominguez will be leading a group representing the County Office of Education. Myself, Chris Schaus, and Mary McGrath are involved at the steering committee level. And I'm looking forward to the process, learning all that we can, and hopefully shaping some work going forward into the next few years to help support all of our kids. Last week, I participated in Senator Becker's town hall on fentanyl and the opioid crisis. I was humbled to be part of the conversation. There were 2 parents who've lost their children to fentanyl poisoning or opioid use. And there were also experts in the field around how these substances, how they're dangerous, how they work in the body, how they're available in the communities, and also a lot of information about parents being able to talk to children about the dangers, because it can be something that catches someone off guard if they're experimenting with something that they think may not be as dangerous, but could be laced with something quite dangerous that could end their life. So it's very important for our young people to be aware and make smart choices, which they're doing a great job of. Our data shows that Our high school students in the county are not showing a lot of opioid use on campus or incidents on campus. While every school in San Mateo County has been well supplied with Narcan toolkits, not a single one has been used to date. Where we see the overdoses occurring is outside of school, in homes and in venues over the weekend time or out of school time. And I also learned in the process of preparing for this town hall that in San Mateo County, where we're seeing more uses in our transition age youth, our 18 to 26-year-olds, and we've lost several young people to fentanyl poisoning or opioid overdose in the county in the last few months. So the work is important, and we continue to work on our education and do what we can to help get the message out. Last Friday, I also visited the South San Francisco Boys and Girls Club clubhouse, and along with Ruby McCarrig and Marcella Miranda. We saw their entire academic program, all the different ages that they serve, listened or heard about their plans for a building remodel or upgrade, and looking for how to partner with them more directly. And so that was really informative and interesting for me to be in that particular Boys and Girls Club, which I have never visited before. I'm looking forward to a busy calendar ahead. Of course, this weekend we'll be seeing 4 of you, board members Camacho and Gerard and Torres and Bonini at the CCBE conference. Board President Gerard and I will be part of a panel on Friday afternoon, along with the Monterey County Office of Education and the Santa Barbara County Office of Education, talking about the importance of developing regional coalitions for safe and supportive schools and pulling in all the partners to work in alignment and coordination in support of safe schools. I'm looking forward to the board workshop on September 20th. We have all the materials from CSBA and the agendas are ready to go. And looking also forward to our staff recognition event on September 27th, which is going to be an experiment. We're kind of sticking our neck out, but we're having a Music on the Green event. So we're tapping on all the musicians in the county office to come out and jam in the parking lot on their instruments. And we actually have some really talented musicians here who have bands and perform, and they're bringing their bands. So we're going to have everybody bring a beach chair and roll out some AstroTurf and have some fun celebrating our wonderful staff on September 27th. If you can make it, that would be wonderful. And that concludes my comments for tonight.
Thank you very much. Item 9A, the board will discuss and act on the San Mateo County Board of Education's voting representative at the California County Boards of Education meeting as part of the California School Boards Association Conference, December 1st, 2023 in San Francisco. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public? Are there any comments or questions from the board? I don't know how many of you are attending the CSBA conference, but I am willing to volunteer to be the vote person. I will be there for the meeting and the entire conference. So if anyone else wants to do it, that's fine, but I'd be happy to. Is there a motion to designate a CCBE voting representative for the San Mateo County Board of Education for the December 1st, 2023 meeting in San Francisco, California?
I'd like to nominate Ms. Gerard.
Second.
There is a motion to designate Beverly Gerard made by Ms. Alvaro and a second by Mr. Cannon. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion passes with unanimous vote, and Beverly Gerard will serve as the CCBE voting representative for the San Mateo County Board of Education for the December 1st, 2023 meeting in San Francisco, California. Item 9B, the board will discuss and/or act on the 3 categories of nominations for CSBA Directors at Large. Director at Large, African American, American Indian, and County. Information on the nominations is included in your board packets. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public? Are there any comments or questions from the board? Are there any nominations for any of these? Yes.
I just have a question. I understand the first couple, but what's the Director at Large county? Is that representing county boards of education?
Yes, it's
Got it.
representing all county boards of education at CCBE. And he attends the Board of Directors meeting for CSBA.
CSBA.
And so he attends all the CSBA Board of Directors meetings.
I was just clarifying. I thought that's what it meant, but I wasn't sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any other? Yes, Ms.
Well,
Benini.
I just had a question about that too. Is it the person who's elected at the CCBE membership meeting, or is it? someone
No,
different?
this person is represented by the entire CSBA Delegate Assembly body.
Who is it right now?
Michael Teasdale Ventura.
Yes,
Thank
it's
you.
currently Michael Teasdale. So. Any other questions or comments or nominations? Yes,
Do we have to nominate today? Like, is this meeting, is there a deadline that we do it by this meeting, or do we still have time after?
to be very honest with you, I'm not sure what the deadline is, but we can find out. They'll be voted on, I believe, at the December CSBA meeting.
Ms. Pern is looking up the deadline for
Thank
you.
Have one more meeting.
So this would be,
So we have one more meeting.
yeah,
That's
except we
our-
don't
that's
really have
our-
an agenda.
Our
Right.
Good Beginnings meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Can I,
Okay. Yes, Mr.
If-
Camacho.
if there are ideas to, and if it doesn't work with our agenda, neighboring counties might be able to agendize it.
We can agendize an item for the, I mean, you will be gathered as a board
So you
and, you can add that if you just hoping not to chip away at the workshop time, but that, if you had that on it,
Yes.
it could happen.
And one way or another, we can work it out if there is a nomination. So please,
helpful.
please
Thank
let
you.
me know. Yeah. Thank you. Item 9C, the board will engage in a first reading of updated gamut policies. No action is required. The board policies will come back to the board at its October 4th, 2023 meeting for a second reading and potential action. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public? Superintendent McGee?
Thank you. And I might get in trouble from Mr. Niblin, but I didn't roll to my second page of notes, and I just wanted to wish Miss Alvaro a very happy birthday on September 14th.
Thank you.
That was so. The board and the county office staff have accomplished a great thing by moving the board policies onto Gamut. What we are trying to learn about how to do right now is how to manage the quarterly updates and how to do it in a smooth process way that works with the board subcommittee. it's been very complicated to sit and kind of sort it out because right now we had a few board policies coming out of the March update, then there was a June update, and we're trying to beat the September update. So we don't want to get too far behind. So we have had several meetings of everybody on deck to sort out a process. And so this board meeting is really just a way of sort of beta testing the way we went through things right now. We did not get, we want to use this corrections chart, which we used in the prior processes. And we think it's going to help everybody stay informed. And so that, I think, is something we would recommend for the process. Secondly, we had to also all sort of relearn how to use the Gamut website, who has different kinds of access, how you edit and all that, or get to the red lines. And then we recognize that in the quarterly update, which we're just really now focusing on, they provided a document that's about the mandated, or I think there's like some sort of quasi-mandated policy list. So we had to look through that. And then there's also board policies that are for county boards only. And then there's board policies that are district policies. And so we did a really nice job, I think, of kind of finally getting settled internally in our own processes. What we've prepared for you today are some a few very low level, easy board policies. For instance, the first policy 0420.4, authorization of county charter schools, went into the original Gamut process, but there were some typos in the text that didn't make any sense, and CSBA didn't catch it, and then we found it and we just wanted to correct it. So that first line, number 2, is really just taking out the question somebody typed in there, then what? So then we've got the answer now of then what, and corrected some other text. So that's not a new policy. It's already in our Gamut policy, but we just corrected. Additionally, board policy 3400, which is line 5 of the chart, is a policy that was discussed during the Gamut process, where we had recognized that we had an administrative regulation about asset management, and yet we did not have a policy. So we, Deputy Superintendent Bultema just went back and found the policy that matches that administrative reg. He went through the language of the policy and kept what we thought was critical to the issue, which was about, I'm just going to the red line. Kevin, can you speak to what that red line added in this policy? The real property, I think, is what we were adding, right?
Sure. We added the language in regards to real property being named in both the superintendent and the board. We also struck out the fraud language that was included in that. Arguing why would you strike that out? It seemed like it might be more appropriate in a superintendent policy than a board policy. So that's why we struck it out at the time. But again, we were trying to capture, most importantly, the naming of real assets in the name of the board and the superintendent,
which matches the administrative reg that we were trying to back it up to. The policies that are updates are listed in column B. You can see that line 3, the oversight of county charter schools, was in the June update and reflects the most recent legislation around authorization of county charter schools. So we did not change any language from CSBA, just took their updates. And then additionally, following that is I think an administrative reg. Oh, there's an exhibit is what it is. So line 3 is the board policy updating the legislation around county oversight of county charter schools from the June update. And then row 4, board policy 0420, which is an exhibit, is actually a document that we determined was really could be very, very helpful to include for school districts. If they were bringing an appeal to the county board, this exhibit really kind of talks them through step by step what their responsibilities are. So we thought that that would be important to include as an exhibit with that board policy. Row 6, board policy 3580, County Office of Education records. We are facing, we need to get a records retention action regulation in place. We are transitioning to keeping only a certain amount of digital email on our servers. And so we're getting ready to make that transition at the end of this month. And we had a policy written last year, but it never made it forward to a reading. So now that we have our current framework, we've included it as a superintendent policy because it's all about records retention regulation. And right now we don't have any official board policy to actually take the action that we're about getting ready to take, which is removing years of email, old email. So that's what that is. And then the board policy 6173, education for homeless children, I believe was in an update. And then these were in the county board updates for June. And then the last one is also a June update around agendas and meeting materials. So if you are able to look at the red lines, you can see where the changes are. And that just kind of takes you through the 7 policies that we're bringing forward today for first reading. And the last thing I'll say is that what we'd like to do going forward is match the quarterly updates when they come out and plan a year in advance ish when the board policy subcommittee would meet with us so that we can have the board policy subcommittees already scheduled well in advance. And then we just follow the calendar around the updates. And if we have to change a meeting, like when we get close to the date and make an adjustment, we can do that. But at least we have sort of a cadence for how we're working. This is a lot of work right here, and it's a lot of concentrated, complicated work. And we're good going slow right now to get it right. But and that's one thing that we think would help is just by calendaring out the board policy subcommittees. Then we have sort of deadlines to work towards. And then we would bring this kind of chart to the subcommittee and talk through it. Then the subcommittee can take their time and really analyze policies that resonate and bring back feedback before we're bringing it to a reading. So that would be our goal of a process. it will probably take us a few tries to get it all the way smooth. So.
Okay, are there any questions, Ms. Benini?
Well, I just wanted to make a statement. It's not really a question. I neglected to do this, but initially, before this meeting started, I was going to pull this item from the agenda because the board policy committee did not, the committee did not meet and was not included in that yet. And also we received some materials on Friday, and then it was the Labor Day weekend, and so we didn't meet. And I, in full disclosure, did not review it because I was going to pull it. Then I was looking at the board packet, and it doesn't have the charts, but I know we got, as a subcommittee, we got the email. So did everybody get these red lines? Because I don't have them in my board packet. So did everybody see them? Besides, I know Susan, you got an email, but like, did everyone else get them? I don't see them in the board packet.
They're in the board packet. Yeah, they were uploaded yesterday.
I think where
So
they
not the
are
one that was distributed to the board.
is clicking on.
There's no
and it's,
link.
it's hidden, I have to say. It took me a bit to find it because I had it through the previous email to the committee. But in this memo for 9C, there's a little underlined line that says, I will share specific recommendations with the board. And if you click on that, it takes you to the chart. But it's pretty difficult to find.
Mine doesn't have that.
Oh.
I'm looking at it right here. I have no line. But anyway, so that's a side issue. So one, I was going to pull it because we didn't get a chance to meet as a committee. But then I didn't. And then I was thinking, as I was sitting going, oh, I didn't pull it. I was reflecting on the fact that it is a first reading. And that, usually, obviously there's no action. And my communications around this had been, well, we want to set forth a good practice, right? So I appreciate that we need to do that in the future. And also scheduling meetings for the policy committee, who ends up in the coming months being on the policy committee if it changes, so that we know. So I didn't want to derail it, but then I realized that I don't even have the link. So then I was more confused. In any case, as long as everyone's comfortable with having it be the first reading, that's fine. Otherwise, one of the options was we can bring it back again and then have a discussion where we all have it in front of us, because I don't even think we have it like in our.
Well, I think we can bring it back as a second reading October 4th. And then if there's questions and concerns at that point, a policy can go to a third reading.
I think the superintendent's right if the board were inclined to do that.
Yeah. I mean, there's we don't have to rush anything.
Yeah. I guess my purpose of trying to pull it initially was to not have extra agenda items, but it's already there. It was already posted. So, and we're talking about it. So yeah, I just wanted to just say that basically, I didn't think that that bringing it forward now on this agenda, I feel like it was premature because we didn't have enough time to schedule a policy committee meeting or to look at it. And so we can do it better. I would suggest, given the fact that it's not a link in mine in any case, that we just bring it back for first reading again. Just bring it back at the next meeting. And then.
Yeah, I think that's fine, but this board policy 3580, we're transferring that over to superintendent policy. And that is the records retention. So we're just going to
notice that one. That's fine. But I do think that part of the process is to have the subcommittee meet. So I don't know that the subcommittee, hopefully the subcommittee could meet sometime during September, but it's going to be a challenge for me personally.
That's my concern, because we're going to get a September update and then a December update.
Yeah, and I realize that these are maybe not very in-depth changes, so it's probably okay. So I just wanted to say that though, because I just don't feel that it was helpful the way it was done. And so going forward, I hope we can do it better. I guess we can schedule it for the next meeting, and if people have questions, it can go forward. I guess that's a fine plan, but I don't know. Did you want to try to meet together with the subcommittee before the next meeting?
We can do that. Because for these these particulars, only 7 policies here, and many of them are fairly simple, really simple. So the ones that you'll probably want to take a deeper look at are the charter school ones, but we didn't change them at all. They're just updated from CSBA.
Okay. Does the board policy subcommittee have thoughts on whether you want to meet with Nancy or the administrators before it comes back to the board? Or are you want to just bring it back? I think, in the future. I
Going
think
forward, we
should.
won't do it this way.
But for this set, do we want to have a meeting? Because then it would just be, schedule a meeting.
I found the link from the spreadsheets, but again, I don't know that the rest of the board has seen them. So, because that did go to the committee. I'm okay with the substance of the materials being in discussion as a full board.
Okay.
Because we're just going to move.
So you don't
along
want to
on
have
this
an
one.
extra meeting?
I don't think we have to this one,
favor.
but I would strongly advocate for us scheduling quarterly meetings like for the year.
Yeah.
So I love that idea of if we know when they're coming, we'll have a meeting ahead of that or around that time.
That's helpful.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how long, like if we have a 1 quarterly meeting, probably needs to be at least an hour. And depending on how much is there, might need to be more. So could we make those for an hour and a half? And if we don't use it all, we can not keep it. Does that seem?
Yeah, for me, the scheduling issue is always just knowing well in advance.
Yeah.
And I think that, we're going to develop a cadence, right? Is the expected release date of these is this date. And then the turnaround time for the staff is we can have 2 weeks and then a subcommittee meeting and then the board meeting, I hope.
Yeah, I think that it's perfect because you can put it on the governance calendar.
Yeah.
And then, we'll know. And then maybe even 2 meetings before, maybe we just come an hour earlier, whatever. I'm all for consolidating meetings.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
So whatever that looks like, but we can figure that out later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Okay. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Ms. Alvaro.
That's okay, thank you. My question is, we're seeing in front of us 7, one of which is going to be a superintendent policy. How much of the changes that came from CSBA does this represent?
Well, these are.
Let me back up. How much of the relevant changes?
Yeah, these are
care.
all the county board policies that we felt were relevant to the work we do here. There might have been a couple of county board policies that, like American Indian education, we don't have that. So
Right.
there's no reason to bring that forward, right?
So of the whole block of changes that came through from CSBA for this quarter or half or however they do it, there really were about 7 that applied?
Not
to us?
exactly, because after we did this first review, then we went back and found the mandated list. And then we had to go back through that again and look and see of the mandated list, what policies did we already have in place? What would be new policies? And so those aren't even reflected here. So we've got a whole nother set of policies from March and June that aren't here yet.
Okay.
So we'll just have to do that on the next round. But that's what I'm saying is there's a lot of information.
Sure.
And it took us a while to sort of sort through it all and figure out how for us to review. So I would say if I was going to guess, it probably wouldn't be any more than 20 policies for an update. Based on how many policies I'm seeing coming forward, how many would be relevant. I think 20 is probably a good median number. Might be a little bit more sometimes, might be a little bit less, but I think that's kind of what we would look at. And we also don't want to be adding hundreds of new policies either. Just, we want to update the ones we have, keep the ones we have current. And then anything that's newly created out of legislation that's mandated, we would need to add. Those are like musts. So I think for this year that we would probably recommend that we focus on the musts. And then as we go forward and get better at it, we can maybe do more luxury reading in what might be an important policy, but.
Yeah, thank you. I was just trying to kind of get my head around how much is coming in from CSBA. And we already know, and it was part of the concern the committee expressed, that a lot of stuff coming from CSBA is either not relevant to us or is going to have a lot of language in it that isn't relevant to us, because we, on the first go round, we spent half of our time correcting language that said, you know, local district or something that did nothing to do with us. So 7 is a lot less than I anticipated.
Mhm.
And that's why I was just trying to figure out if that's, looks like it's normal. But you're saying there's about 20 more?
I honestly don't.
not gonna hold you
Yeah,
to it,
I'm
but-
not sure, but it was a big, long list. That's what I remember, but most of them we already had as far as the mandated. So it was a matter of figuring out which ones we didn't have that are mandated. So there's probably about 6 or 7 at least that we didn't
And-
have that are mandated.
Which person on staff had the privilege of going through all these with a comb?
Well, Patricia's our lead, and then all of core cabinet is going through it, and Lisa Cho is helping us sort out the mandated from the non-mandated lists. So
thank you, Patricia.
Ms. Benini?
So is it possible, I think we talked about this at the outset, and I think, well, my question is, can we get the updates, like as they come to you, like in the policy committee or the board if they wish, like see the list? Because I'd like to see it. I also think that if we log into our CSBA thing, we can probably see
you
it.
can.
So that
I'm pretty
might
sure you
accomplish
can. Is that true?
Yeah, so we can maybe get to it ourselves. I just.
Yeah, so
forgot
we
to
also need
think
to
about
do a
it.
little bit of training
Mhm.
with you guys on where to find things
Mhm.
and how your access works.
Yeah, because I'd appreciate that if I'm gonna be on the policy committee in the future, just to have an overview of it and then
Mhm.
see how you've coded it down. And if I have
Yeah.
questions, I'd like to be able to. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Item 9D, the board will receive a draft board governance calendar. Before we begin, are there any comments from the public? Superintendent McGee.
Well, we just included 2 links, one for the CSBA governance calendar that board member Benini had shared with us initially. And again, it's kind of shaped for district boards, but we've been trying to play around with it a little bit and do something internal. So we did that, but what I do know is that the board governance calendar is part of the agenda for the Good Beginnings workshop. That it will be part of a discussion. So we thought we'd just put what we're even talking about in front of you this week. And then you can discuss and provide feedback now or and talk about it next time also.
Ms. Benini?
So I just want to clarify, there are 2 versions of this. One is for, and granted it is CSBA and they're more slanted toward districts, but there is a district version. This is actually the county office version. So it's meant for county offices, not districts, the sample. And I received it, just as a reminder, I received it in the board president's workshop, which was delivered by one of the people doing the workshop was the facilitator that we will have doing our new beginning. So I just wanted to share that. But I appreciate this, having a start. I do think that it should be filled out a lot more. I have two requests. One is that it is as complete as possible because it helps us understand where the heavier months are, so that if we want to request agenda items, that we know when it's helpful to do that. That's part of the goal. And then the other thing I would request in the future at some point is not just for the governance calendar, but for agenda items generally. This might be aligned with some work that you're doing around the strategic plan, but it would be really helpful to know which pieces of the agenda items and which pieces, on our agenda and on the planning, where they tie into the strategic plan.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
That's I mentioned it to somebody who's like at the event, and I was like, that would be so great. So we know like what the focus is.
Yeah,
So
we've done that in cabinet where our agenda items are tied to strategic plan, so we can do that.
that's just something I thought would be useful for
Yeah.
us, but I at the will of the board, I guess. So those are my comments. But also I just wanted to express my appreciation for getting this started, because I do think that it will help in the coming years.
Ms. Alvaro?
Thank you, and thank you. This is a great start. I'm wondering if there should be, I see this, how the categories are broken down. If there should be a section, and I'm not quite sure how to phrase it, but for this mandated, I use that word, subcommittee work. For instance, I know that Marcia Silva Garcia used to have a calendar, and she would remind us, for instance, the board superintendent salary subcommittee has to meet between this date and this date, because this is when you're going to bring it to the board. And then we didn't forget it because it was on the calendar, and it wasn't part of the meeting other than the recommendation ended up on the agenda. But it was this sort of another section that reminded the subcommittees of some of the things that had to be done. And that's the only one that immediately jumps to mind that had a time frame on it, but it was an important one. And there were a couple other things too. And I'm sure it's somewhere in that notebook that she had put together that there's a draft of that. This is how it works, because I know, especially when I was board president, it was so helpful to have those reminders. And even if I wasn't on the committee, I could turn to the chair of the committee and say, you got next month a report due. So I would love to see that on here somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the kind of thing we would want to have on here.
Are there any other comments or questions? Thank you very much. It's very exciting. Delighted to see it coming to fruition. Item 9E. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 23-29, implementing board policy 9250 to compensate Jim Cannon for his absence from the August 23rd, 2023 board meeting due to illness?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion made by to approve resolution number 23-29 made by Ms. Alvaro and a second by Mr. Torres. Are there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion passes with unanimous vote, and resolution number 23-29 has been approved. Item 9F, our board members will comment, and I will start with Ms. Alvaro.
Oh, okay. Thank you. The first thing I want to just say is to extend my condolences and sympathy to Deputy Superintendent Chris Shows on her recent bereavement. And thank you to Sarah Notch for stepping in and taking care of that report. She did a great job. I was really happy to approve that consent agenda where we extended Oxford Day Academy for 5 years. I know that was a governor's mandate, and it wasn't really something we decided to do, but I think they're doing a great job, and I think that gives them some time to catch up from the pandemic and be ready to come in for a renewal, and it gives them 5 years, which is really great. And other than that, I don't really have very much. Just thank staff for all their work and the new people for their enthusiasm. And to those of you going down to Monterey, have a really good conference, and I want to hear all about it when you come back.
Mr. Torres.
Yes, Board Member Camacho and I are part of the Latino Leaders Coalition of the Bay Area. Next Friday, we are launching our first event, part of our Latino Heritage Month speaker series, with Sylvia Mendez being our guest speaker. So if you're able to make it, that'd be great. There's been a lot of work put in to make that happen, and it's just one of many. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cannon.
Thank you, Bev. So I know that you've had a meeting since the strategic plan was unveiled and since Jackie Spears' event, but I just wanted to briefly comment on the unveiling of and the explanation of the strategic plan. I thought it was just a terrific thing. Unfortunately, I had to leave at lunch because of my staff was having a reunion, and we're getting older and can't miss the chances to get together. But I thought Marco did a great job, as well as including many, many people from different parts of the organization and giving them a chance to shine a little bit. And the whole thing was just first rate. So thank you for that. And of course, Jackie Spear does everything first rate. And the announcement of her foundation and the initial efforts, very encouraging. So I wanted to talk just briefly about the staff that was introduced tonight. You know, it's been a concern of ours for a long time about the difficulty in replacing really top-notch people that we've had working here in the office. And such a concern because of the high costs of living in this area and our relatively modest salaries compared to what society is offering in other areas. So just a congratulations to Nancy and the cabinet and whoever else is responsible for bringing these people in. Just a terrific group tonight, and their enthusiasm, their wonderful backgrounds, and their plans were very encouraging, very, very, very encouraging. So I thank you for all of that. And that's all I have.
Mr. Camacho.
Just thank you to all the staff for all of the presentations this evening. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Ms. Vanini.
Okay, I have a couple things. One is I just wanted to share a little bit more briefly about the Behavioral Health Commission's Mental Health Pathways Project that we launched on August 1st here in this room, and I mentioned it at the last meeting. I wanted just to note that we're really getting a lot of good feedback on it, and we were invited back by the members of the county office and also the SELPA to do a follow-on, a second launch, not a launch, but a second workshop on the 31st. So we went from the 1st to the 31st. So I wanted to thank Natasha King and Mary McGrath for inviting us to the post-pandemic mental health cohort with school counselors and wellness counselors and school psychologists and outside mental health providers. We learned a lot, and that was a different, one of the backstage perspective versus, the parents and the caregivers who are receiving that information. So we're going to carry on. We're meeting with youth and meeting around the county, and we have a calendar we're building. So it's pretty exciting, actually. I wanted to note that I follow up also on the request I made to have a resolution or a proclamation around Dyslexia Awareness Month for October. I haven't forwarded the sample yet because I was actually looking at it more. It came from Decoding Dyslexia, the one I have, and I think there are probably other versions as well. And I wanted to request a little bit further to say when we eventually have it, whichever meeting that is in October, if we could do something similar that we did to one of the prior resolutions where we invite them to come and receive it, because I think that would be really, really helpful for the work that's being done in the community on this issue. So that's another request. And then I also just lastly wanted to note that I shared of some materials, or actually some ribbons with you at your seat. Some are metal, some are actually ribbons. For this month, September is, among other things, it is Suicide Prevention Month, and it is survivor of having a person in your family or someone close to you having died by suicide. And so that ribbon is actually purple ribbon, which is not the teal and purple, just purple. They've separated it out. So I'm on that committee through the Behavioral Health Commission, and there are a lot of other materials. So I have a stack of things here. I didn't get a chance to deliver them all to you, but I have them here. So if you want to pick up any before you leave tonight, I also shared some with Superintendent McGee, as she noted. And if anyone who's listening or anybody here would like to request more materials, Sylvia Tang is the leader of this effort at the Office of Diversity and Equity at Behavioral BHRS. And so she is more than willing, I think, to share that. You can pick things up. You can call her, send her an email. And I think she's happy to send boxes over to different organizations, and maybe if anybody here wants more. So that is all. And I'll leave these here. Hopefully you all take them, because as Sylvia said yesterday at the pickup, it's much better to have them out in the community than in her office, and much better than in my sack. So thank you.
Thank you. I would also like to offer my deepest sympathy and condolences to Chris and her family. I know it's a very difficult thing to be going through, and we just want her to know that we're all thinking of her and sending good, positive feelings towards her family. I also want to wish Ms. Alvaro a happy birthday, since we will not see her before her big celebration. So I hope you enjoy your day. And I am looking forward to participating in the workshop session on Friday with Superintendent McGee and the other two superintendents. I'm hoping that we'll really have fun. I've got my materials, so I'll be studying. So thank you. And I am really hoping that everyone will really get a lot out of the conference. Trust me, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into the planning of this, believe me. So I'm really hoping that you'll enjoy it. And Mr. Ross will also be there as a presenter. So hopefully we'll get to touch base with him as well. So with that, the board will participate in the CSBA Good Beginnings Workshop at the next meeting on Wednesday, September 20th, 2023 at 5 p.m. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.